Mr. Miller, this is Dr. Martinez. Good news, it's not malaria. Bad news, it's chlamydia. I'm Jack Miller. I fix busted pipes, jammed elevators, blown circuits. At Mercy General, I'm the guy they call when the building starts falling apart. But this? I can't fix this. 3 days ago, Olivia flew back from a humanitarian trip. Pale, sweaty, said it was the pills. I nodded, because husbands want to believe. But her suitcase told a different story. A gold VIP pass, a gala guest list, and one photo I'd never seen. Her in a tight cherry red dress, 6 men's hands around her waist, everyone grinning like they'd already won something. Side effects, she'd shrugged. She wasn't wrong, just named the wrong damn cause. Upstairs, she called down, sweet as ever. Water? I stared at the glass I'd dropped. Cracks spidering out like fault lines. I've heard that sound before, right before a pressure valve blows. Some things you fix. Some things you shut down before they take the whole damn system with them. Name's Jack Miller. If a hospital were a person, I'd be the knees and lower back. Nothing glamorous, everything necessary. I keep Mercy General standing when the lights flicker, when a drain backs up, when a door won't close and a scared family wants privacy. I've pulled double shifts for boiler failures and spent Christmas Eve thawing pipes so babies stayed warm. I don't wear a white coat. I wear steel-toed boots and carry a roll of blue tape that fixes half the world until morning. Folks say I'm patient. Truth is, I like predictable problems, broken things that admit they're broken. You turn a wrench, the leak stops. You replace a belt, the elevator runs. Marriage felt like that to me for 8 years. Tighten the bolts, change the filters, keep it humming. So when Olivia came home from overseas looking like a storm walked through her, I did what I always do. I grabbed my tools and told myself it could be fixed. Olivia landed on a Wednesday, just after lunch rush. She moved like a person paying for a choice her body didn't agree with. Clammy skin, jittery hands, the smile you use when you don't want questions. Malaria pills, she said, voice paper thin. Side effects. It'll pass. I believed her the way husbands believe weather forecasts, not because the sky says so, but because you've already planned the weekend. I made tea, tucked blankets, set a trash can by the bed just in case. She closed her eyes and let me play nurse, which was strange. She's the actual nurse. Every time I asked about the mission, she said, long hours, and drifted. I kept thinking about our savings account and the 2 weeks she'd been gone, about bills stacked like Jenga blocks waiting for a careless hand. When she finally slept, I stood in the doorway, watched her breathe, and told myself the worst thing in our house was a bottle of pills with a scary label. The suitcase sat on the dresser like it had seen things it wasn't ready to talk about. I unzipped it to help. Fresh scrubs, travel bottles, the sun hat she bought on clearance. Underneath, I found a gold-foiled VIP pass with Pacific Relief Gala, Donor Appreciation Weekend, in fancy letters. My stomach did that slow elevator drop. I told myself hospitals throw parties, even for good causes. Then I found the guest list, 30 names, nice pen, little check marks beside half of them, like a waiter tracking tables. I've seen clipboards like that outside ORs. Somebody decides who gets in. I set everything down and listened to the apartment breathe. Refrigerator hum, pipe tick, the sound a building makes when it's holding its tongue. Out the window, the neighbor's flag hung limp in August heat. I wanted to fold the pass back where I found it and choose a different day. I wanted to be the guy who fixes things without asking why they broke. The photo was buried under her scrubs, like the truth always knows to hide where you won't look. Olivia in a tight cherry red dress, the kind that steals light from the room. Around her, 6 men in tuxedos, all with the practiced grin of people who never wait in line. Their hands sat easy on her waist, like they'd already paid the cover charge. I tried to be reasonable. Fundraisers need pictures. Nurses pose with donors. That's how hospitals eat. But I've worked too many years with machines to miss certain sounds. Something in my chest made the noise a motor makes when the lubricant runs out. I flipped the photo over. Blank. No date, no event tag, no wish you were here. Just the kind of silence that hangs after a bad story ends and before anyone admits it. I slid the picture into my back pocket and felt the edge bite when I breathed. The truth had corners. They were starting to cut. Jack? Water? She called, sweet as Sunday pie. I tucked the photo deeper than secrets deserve and walked to the kitchen like my boots weighed 50 pounds apiece. I filled a glass and watched the tap shiver, steady stream pressed thin by air in the line. Old buildings telegraph what's coming if you listen. Upstairs, floorboards creaked in that patient rhythm of someone pretending to be helpless. I brought the water in. Olivia's hair was messy, college t-shirt big enough to hide a story. "You're an angel," she said, taking a careful sip, avoiding my eyes like they were bright lights at sobriety checkpoints. I set the glass down and smiled the way you do at church when the sermon cuts close. "How was the mission?" I asked. She told me about remote clinics and grateful families, and never once said gala. Every word landed like a screw being turned. When she closed her eyes, I walked back downstairs, hand on my pocket, pulse like a hammer. My phone lit up with a number I knew from appointment reminders and flu shot season. "Mr. Miller, this is Dr. Martinez." Her voice had that polite cushion doctors put between you and impact. "Good news, it's not malaria." Time slowed. Refrigerator hum, the tick of the hallway clock, my own breath scraping past my teeth. "Bad news, it's chlamydia. We'll start antibiotics. It's treatable, but you should also get tested." I thanked her because manners are muscle memory, even when everything inside you is falling off the shelves. She paused. "Did Olivia tell you she was tested yesterday?" Yesterday. I stared at the ceiling, where pipes run like honest truth. No surprises, just roots. "She mentioned side effects," I said. "Right," the doctor answered softly. The call ended. I set the phone down like it might explode and looked at my hands. Men my age fix decks, coach Little League, pay off used cars. No one hands you a script for this. The silence after bad news is heavier than any wrench. There are words that change the paint on your walls. Chlamydia is one of them. It echoed around our kitchen like the first crack of a summer storm, and every memory I had tried to run for cover. The mission photos she posted, the careful texting, the way she turned her face when she kissed me goodbye before that flight. I wanted to be the man I grew up watching, my old man fixing a transmission at dusk, wiping his hands saying, "We'll figure it out." But there's no gasket you can replace for trust. A good house hides its wiring. When something arcs, you smell it before you see smoke. I stood there, phone cooling in my palm, and felt the heat creep up my neck. Upstairs, Olivia coughed for effect. I thought about Sunday dinners at her parents' place, about vows spoken in a church that smelled like lemon oil. Lightning never asks permission to strike. It just finds the tallest thing and splits it clean. The glass slipped. Maybe my hand shook. Maybe gravity decided to throw an elbow. It hit the tile and spidered into a mess that reflected the whole kitchen in crooked pieces. Water ran everywhere, chasing grout lines like rivers finding old maps. I grabbed a towel and did the thing I know how to do: contain, control, clean. The shop towels in my truck smell like oil and solvency. This one smelled like lemon dish soap and something I couldn't name. I kept thinking, this is what happens. Pressure builds, seams give, the weak point fails. You don't blame the water for running downhill. You blame the crack. Upstairs, the floor creaked again. She wanted that water. I wrung the towel, stared at my distorted face in a shard, and understood why men my age take long drives after dinner. You can't fix what refuses to admit it's broken. I tossed the glass in the trash and decided for once to let the mess sit and speak. I took the stairs slow, each step a count. One for the lie, one for the gala, one for the call. By the door, I rehearsed the version of me that gets folks through emergencies. Calm voice, steady hands, no blame until the fire's out. Olivia looked small against our pillows, a picture of need. She thanked me for the water she hadn't received yet. I set the glass on the nightstand and sat on the edge of the bed like you do when a mechanic explains what failed and how much it'll cost. "Tell me about the mission," I said, easy as a weatherman. She talked about remote villages, long roads, mosquitoes. Not a word about sequins, music, or men who don't wait in lines. I nodded in the right places and kept my breathing even. Inside, something unspooled. At Mercy, I carry a folder for worst-case parts. In my head, I opened it. I wasn't sure yet which fix this was. I only knew it wasn't temporary. I carried the water upstairs like it weighed more than it should. Olivia had stacked pillows behind her, hair in a messy knot, college t-shirt one size too big, the picture of a good patient resting after doing good things. She gave me that soft smile I used to believe like gospel. "You're the best," she whispered, like I'd just fixed a leak behind the wall. I set the glass down and watched the condensation ring grow on the nightstand, a small, patient flood waiting for permission. "Any better?" I asked, the way you talk to a stranger's mother in an ER waiting room. "A bit," she said, eyes sliding off mine like skates on bad ice. "Those pills are nasty." I nodded, because men my age learn to pick our moments. Downstairs, the kitchen still smelled like broken glass and lemon soap. In my pocket, the photograph pressed a sharp corner into my thigh. I could play nurse, or I could play honest. I chose the next thing. "Tell me about the mission," I said, easy voice, hands quiet on my knees. Olivia stared past me, found a spot on the wall where the paint needed a touch-up. "Long hours," she said. "Heat, bugs. We set up clinics in places with no roads. People lined up before sunrise. We ran out of gloves twice." It was the kind of story you can't argue with without sounding small. I pictured my dad telling me about a busted carburetor. Lots of detail, not much heart. "Any time to rest?" I asked. "Barely," she said, and found a cough. "We did what we could." I glanced at her suitcase, closed now, as if that could keep its secrets quiet. Folks our age know the difference between tired and guilty. One sinks into a chair, the other keeps moving. Olivia's tired had too much choreography. I reached for the nightstand, lifted the water, and let it catch the light. "There's something else we should talk about," I said. "Something I found." I pulled the photo from my back pocket and laid it down like a mechanic sets a cracked belt on the counter, not to shame you, but to show you what failed. Olivia in a tight cherry red dress, 6 tuxedos orbiting her like money has gravity. No caption, no date, just a moment that didn't need one. Her breath hitched, barely, the sound a pipe makes when air gets in the line. "What's this?" I asked, though the question answered itself. She swallowed. "A fundraiser," she said. "We take pictures. It's how hospitals keep donors engaged." I nodded. "Sure," I said, and tapped the edge. "Tell me about the hands." Silence thickened. Older folks know that kind of quiet. It's the same hush that falls at Thanksgiving when someone says the thing nobody's supposed to say. I let the moment stretch until it hummed. "Okay," I said, standing. "Let's try another approach." I slid the photo closer, close enough that the cherry dress lit up the room. Color left her face the way lights drop during a power test. "It's not what you think," she said. First card in a deck I've seen before. Deny, minimize, reframe. "Those men, donors, everyone takes those photos. It's theater." She forced a laugh that didn't know where to sit. "You know how these events are." "I do, actually. Floors that scuff, lights that buzz, garbage that doubles after speeches." "And the guest list?" I asked. "The check marks?" She blinked, recalculating. "Attendance," she said. "I helped with seating, that's all." The air in the room felt like late July, thick, buzzing, waiting for lightning. I could hear my neighbor's TV through the wall, canned laughter timed for people who need help knowing when to laugh. "Okay," I said, softer than I felt. "One more question." She nodded, grateful for anything but the truth. I picked up the water and set it in her hands like a prop. "When were you going to tell me about yesterday's test at Dr. Martinez's office?" The word hung between us like a dropped wrench ringing on concrete. "Chlamydia," I said, plain as a road sign. "Not malaria. That's what the doctor told me." Olivia flinched the way folks flinch when a car door slams too loud. "Jack, please." "I'll keep it simple," I said. "Either you were unfaithful, or science changed while I was at work." I've learned to explain bad news kindly. You don't blame the family when the compressor dies. You show them the burnt windings and the scorch on your knuckles. "It's treatable," she said fast. "It doesn't mean—" "It means enough," I said. The room pressed in. Down the block, a siren started and faded, the long exhale of a city that's seen worse. I looked at the photo, then at her. 2 pictures of my wife, neither telling a story I could live with. Somewhere deep, a pressure valve groaned. "I'm going to ask you one time," I said. "Is there something you want to tell me before I decide my next step?" She broke the way people break when the story won't carry their weight. Tears, quick as summer storms, mascara tracking south. "I never meant to hurt you," she said, reaching for my hand like it could prop up a roof. "It was complicated. The mission needed contacts. The hospital expects networking. I got in over my head." She squeezed, the way couples do in church when the preacher hits close. "We can fix this. Counseling. I'll quit committees. I'll block numbers. Whatever you need." I thought about the men I know, guys who sell a truck to pay a medical bill, who work overtime because the mortgage doesn't care. We fix what we can, and we don't pretend about what we can't. "It's not a clogged drain, Liv," I said. "It's the main line." Her tears sharpened into anger for a blink and softened again. "Please," she whispered. Somewhere in the building a door slammed and the frame shivered. My decision did too, but not the way she hoped. I stood, walked to the closet, and grabbed my old duffel. It's the one I've used for hurricane calls and overnight boiler failures. Big, honest, ready. I folded shirts the way my mother taught me and stacked jeans like shingles against rain. Olivia watched, tears drying in streaks. "What are you doing?" she asked, like the answer might still be different if she found the right tone. "Creating space," I said. Men my age know the ritual. Tools in their case, keys in a dish, wallet, ring, breath. I took my razor, my toothbrush, my steel-toed boots, the pieces of a life that moves under its own power. The photograph sat on the dresser, red dress daring me to look again. I didn't. Instead, I zipped the bag slow, the sound long enough to register. There's a kind of quiet that follows a zipper, the quiet of decisions landing. Olivia reached for the duffel, fingers soft against canvas. "You don't have to do this," she said. "You can stay. You can—" For once, I didn't fix the moment. "Typical," she snapped, grief curdling into contempt. "When it gets hard, you run. You always run." It's funny what people rewrite when the ink's still wet. "From what?" I asked. "Kids," she said. "A house. Promotions. You never wanted more." That old saw again, the one where steady becomes small, where reliable means unambitious. I thought about the men on my crew, guys who hold flashlights for each other under leaking ceilings at 2 a.m., who show up anyway when backs ache and knees complain. "I didn't run," I said. "I paused boondoggles we couldn't afford. I stayed late so you could take classes. I kept our lights on." Her mouth tightened. "You're scared of bettering yourself." I laughed once, no humor in it. "I'm scared of lies," I said. The air felt cold, like a door was open somewhere. "You want to talk about running?" I nodded toward the photograph. "Let's start with who ran where." Her eyes flashed. The next thing out of my bag wasn't clothes. I set the duffel on the bed and opened a different ledger, the kind older folks keep in their heads. 8 years, I said. Double shifts, canceled fishing trips, the busted AC in July I fixed with a box fan, and hoped so we wouldn't dip into savings. I took the late calls so you could sleep before early shifts. I learned to make your mother's pot roast, and I learned to keep quiet when it never tasted like hers. I let that sit. I skipped a promotion because it would have moved us across town and away from your parents. I sold my dad's old Chevy to cover your certification courses. I didn't run, Liv. I rooted. Her chin trembled. "I was trying to grow," she said. "So was I answered. "Just in a direction you could live in." The room narrowed to the space between us. The past spread out like receipts. I took a breath and reached for the drawer where I kept the thing I never wanted to use. The manila folder had lived under socks and ordinary days, a quiet insurance policy against the storm I prayed would blow past. I took it out and set it on the bed between the water ring and the photograph. "What is that?" Olivia asked, voice small again. "Backup plan," I said. I slid the first page toward her. Names, dates, the language of endings written by someone who doesn't know your jokes. I'd had them drawn up months back after midnight texts that smelled wrong, after a second phone, after my gut stopped sleeping. "No," she whispered, as if the paper could unwrite itself. "This isn't you." I wanted that to be true, wanted to be the man who never needs a parachute, but but I've seen roofs cave under one snow too many. I'm not filing tonight, I said, but I'm done pretending there isn't a fire. The building creaked, settling or warning. I zipped the folder shut. Her eyes chased me to the door. Downstairs, the kitchen waited for the next sound. I slung the duffel over my shoulder and walked past the photos on our hallway wall. Birthdays in bad lighting, a beach trip where the wind did all the hairstyling. Olivia's voice cracked behind me, sharp, pleading, then angry, then small again. I've heard alarms like that at Mercy. Some you answer, some you silence because the problem isn't the beeping, it's the fire. I paused at the door, hand on the knob, wondering if 8 years fits through a 3-inch deadbolt. "Don't do this," she said. "We can fix it." I pictured the cherry red dress, the guest list, my name missing from every line. I stepped onto the landing and let the door click shut, the quiet kind that feels louder than a slam. Outside, the evening smelled like cut grass and warm asphalt. I set the duffel in the truck, sat for 1 breath, 2, and started the engine. The check engine light blinked once, then went out, like even the truck knew I was past the point of tune-ups. The Riverside Motel sits between a pawn shop and a diner that swears its coffee is famous since '82. The neon R flickers, so at night it just says, "I've," like a dare. I've worked in places with this smell, disinfectant, stale smoke, the kind of clean that earns its keep. The clerk slid a key at me on a ring big enough to wrangle cattle. "Weekly rate's cheaper," he said, eyes doing inventory on the man with a duffel and no smile. Room 112 had a bedspread loud enough to wake the dead and a bathroom fan that whined like a kid asked to share toys. But the door locked, the AC blew cold, and nothing in the room pretended to be what it wasn't. I set my bag down, washed my face in water that ran rusty for a second, and stared at myself in the mirror. Men my age measure nights like this by how quiet the phone stays. Mine didn't. It lit up like a bad idea. By day 3, the motel TV had taught me every lawyer in town and half the used car lots. I ate from the vending machine because decisions felt heavy and chips don't argue. That afternoon, a knock I recognized. 2 quick, 1 patient. Mike Kowalski, night shift security at Mercy, leaned in with a 6-pack and a face that's seen people at their worst without making them feel it. "Heard you relocated," he said, the kind of joke that lets a guy keep his dignity. We sat, him in the chair, me on the bed that squeaked like it had opinions. He didn't push. That's Mike's gift. He points his face at you and waits until the truth gets uncomfortable keeping quiet. "How bad?" he asked finally. I told him about the suitcase, the photo, the call from Dr. Martinez. He winced, the way men do when someone tells you they dropped an engine on their foot. He handed me a beer. "You'll want this," he said. He wasn't wrong. There's a difference between knowing and saying. Knowing lives in your chest. Saying puts it on the table where you can both see it. "She came home with chlamydia," I said. The word made the cheap art on the wall look cheaper. Mike didn't flinch or sermonize. He just breathed in, out. "I'm sorry," he said, the exact right size of sorry. I told him about the gala pass, the guest list, the hands on her waist. He nodded in places that said he'd heard versions of this before, in parking lots, on smoke breaks, in the quiet corners where men admit they don't know what to do. "Doc says it's treatable," I added, because facts are a habit. "So is rust," he said, "but it tells you something about the metal." We stared at the muted weather channel. A red line crept across the map like trouble with a schedule. "So what now?" he asked. I didn't know yet. I only knew I was tired of bleeding in private. "First rule," Mike said, leaning back like an ump who's called this game before. "Keep your dignity, don't give it away for free." He ticked off the usual landmines. No drunk voicemails, no midnight drive-bys, no public meltdowns that make her look like the stable one. "Document," he added. "Dates, texts, everything. Memory lies when it's hurt." He told me about his divorce, the part where he learned sitting quietly beats swinging wildly when the crowd's watching. "Take the high road," I said, hearing the old cliché. He shook his head. "Take the solid road. High or low, doesn't matter. Solid holds." I thought about the guys at Mercy who frame walls straight because somebody's baby will lean against them. Mike pointed at my phone. "You'll want to block, then unblock, then write speeches. Don't. Keep your words short and your steps steady. He grinned, tired and kind. And eat real food once a day. It's harder to fall apart with a sandwich in your hand. Olivia's messages came like weather, cycling through seasons faster than a calendar. I'm sorry. You're overreacting. We can fix it. You never supported me. Older folks know that dance. You see it in grown kids who want money and in bosses who offer exposure instead of pay. My thumb hovered over replies I didn't send. Mike watched me pace tracks into a carpet that had already seen worse. Write it in notes, he said. Don't send it. So I did. I wrote the fierce, clever, stupid things and left them captive on a screen that never tattles. She called twice. I let it ring. On the third try, I answered and said 12 words. Email only from here on out. I'll respond within 24 hours. Then I hung up and blocked the number, the way you turn off a valve before you fix a leak. 2 beats later, an email arrived. Long as a sermon, angry as a hornet. I didn't open it. Not yet. I wanted my hands clean first. Textbook, Mike said the next night, tapping my screen like a coach diagramming a play. They deny what you saw. Then they minimize what you felt. Then they blame you for reacting to both. He scrolled past, it was just networking, and we were separated in spirit, and you made me feel small. There it is, he said, pointing. Stage 3. He wasn't smug about being right. He was sad about how often right looks like this. I thought about the guys I know who've patched drywall after a teenager threw a controller, who've said I love you to someone too mad to hear it. We learn patterns the hard way. How do you beat a playbook? I asked. You don't, Mike said. You change the game. You stop arguing with a story that needs you to be the villain. I put the phone face down and listened to semis grind gears on the highway. Somewhere in that noise, I heard something I hadn't felt in days, air moving through open space. Once Mike named it, I couldn't unsee it. The last year replayed like security footage, angles I'd missed before, the secretive texting, the late-night charting, the sudden need for dresses that didn't fit our budget. I remembered a donor dinner she insisted on attending for the hospital, and the way she came home smelling like a lobby you can't afford to sit in. Men my age swear they'll pay better attention next time, but the truth is, love is built for trust, not surveillance. I sat on the edge of the bed and let the motel AC rattle its case. You're not stupid, Mike said, reading my face. You're loyal. There's a difference. The vending machine in the hall thunked another dinner to the floor. I decided to stop being angry at yesterday and start being useful to tomorrow. So, I said, we document. We answer by email. We don't rise to bait. Mike nodded. And you eat something that wasn't frozen in 2011. We laughed. It sounded almost like a beginning. The next morning, I bought a spiral notebook at the diner register, the kind you keep by the phone in kitchens with landlines. I wrote dates, times, summaries, clean, neat, no adjectives. I saved screenshots to a folder with a boring name. I forwarded the angry email to a new address I made for this mess. One box for facts, not feelings. Mike swung by before his shift with coffee that could strip paint. One more thing, he said, serious now. Don't give anyone reason to call you unstable. He listed dumb ideas men get. Slashing tires, telling bosses, telling pastors, telling Facebook. You'll want relief, he said. This won't give it. I nodded. I know tools that promise more than they deliver. He clapped my shoulder. Do the small right things. They stack. After he left, I opened Olivia's email. 10 paragraphs of whiplash. I typed 3 sentences back. Received. Please use email for all communication. I'll respond within 24 hours. I hit send. Somewhere a bridge didn't burn. That night, sleep wouldn't come, so memory did. I saw our small church again. The lemon oil pews, the air swung by fans on chains, my dad's tie too wide because he wore what he had. Olivia walked down the aisle in her grandmother's dress, lace that had outlived 3 basements. Her mother cried the way mothers do, hope and fear braided together. I remember promising the things everybody promises, not knowing which ones will cost you. After the reception, we drove to a motel with cleaner carpets than this one and ate leftover cake with our fingers. I kept a fork from that motel, cheap metal, thin neck. I still use it to stir paint. People 35 and older know how keepsakes become tools because life doesn't leave room for glass cases. I lay there in Riverside 112 listening to footsteps above me and decided the past could visit but not move in. Morning would come, and with it, a decision I wouldn't unmake in the dark. Monday. I put on my navy shirt with Mercy General Maintenance stitched over the pocket and drove in like any other day. Routine can save a man. It gives your hands something to do while your head calms down. The basement smelled like laundry steam and old coffee. Joe, my supervisor, glanced up from the work orders. "Compressor in surgical, door closer in pediatrics," he said, eyes holding a question he didn't ask. "On it," I answered, grateful for bolts and belts and things that don't lie. In the elevator, I watched the floor numbers climb and told myself to keep my chin level, voice steady, tools clean. People come to hospitals for help, not for a show. I swapped a filter, tightened a belt, and felt my breathing find a rhythm. On my way to the cafeteria drain, I passed the ER, her unit. Through the glass, I saw blue scrubs moving fast, charts, monitors, life. For a minute, I thought I could make it through the day untouched. By mid-morning, the hospital grapevine had ripened into a full harvest. In break rooms and supply closets, voices dropped when I walked in, then rose like blinds when I walked out. The volunteer guild ladies got quiet over muffins. The transporter kids pretended to check their phones. You can feel gossip in your bones, like a pressure front before a storm. "He looks okay," someone said, as if men wear visible cracks. I kept my eyes on the work order app. In pediatrics, a nurse with kind eyes handed me a cookie for the road, which is hospital code for, "I can't fix this for you, but here's a small kindness." I thanked her and moved on. At the service elevator, I caught my reflection. A man holding a toolbox and a face he'd taught to behave. The doors opened. 2 voices floated out. "Olivia, suspension? No, can't be," and then stopped when they saw me. I stepped in, hit ER, and let the doors close on the rest of the sentence. The ER is a humming engine room. Phones, pagers, footsteps, the steady beeping that means a heart is still arguing its case. I was swapping a loose kick plate when I heard Olivia's voice carry from behind the nurse's station. Familiar cadence, picked for sympathy. "It's been hard." Tasha, her friend, murmured something soft. Another voice, Dr. Santos, said, "People love to judge." I stayed low, screws between my teeth, the way you do when a hose might burst and soak you. Olivia talked about marriage troubles and misunderstandings, shaping the air with words that avoid nouns. No gala, no photo, no call, just the story people use when they want your head to nod. I tightened the last screw and stood. Tasha saw me first. Guilt flashed across her face like a pager light. Olivia turned, eyes catching, then skittering away. I set my screwdriver down on the cart like it was the heaviest thing I owned. "Need the consultation room?" I asked evenly. She swallowed. "Please," she said. The engine room kept humming. We ducked into a family consultation room, the kind where doctors speak softly and chairs know the weight of bad news. I closed the door and stood instead of sitting, because sitting makes a man look like he's staying. Olivia wrapped her arms around herself like a borrowed coat. "Jack," she began, "this isn't who we are." I thought about how often people use "we" as a tarp to cover a mess. "Say what you need to say," I answered. She reached for the script. "I made mistakes. You're hurt. It's complicated." The fluorescent light hummed. A chart of pain scales smiled from the wall. I kept my hands on the back of a chair to keep them honest. "Complicated is a busted valve behind drywall," I said. "This is different." She took a breath, eyes shining like she could flood the room into forgiveness. "If we talk, if you listen, you'll understand." I nodded toward the table. "Then we'll start with the truth," I said, and slid the photograph between us. She stared at the photo the way people stare at X-rays, hoping shadows are just smudges. "It's not," she started. "Finish the sentence," I said. Her shoulders dropped. "I was trying to help the mission. Donors matter. I shouldn't have gone that far." Her voice softened, older than the last time I'd heard it soft. "Jack, I love you. I was lonely out there. I felt invisible. The word pinged around the room like a marble in a tin cup. I thought about all the invisible I'd lived. Midnights under a boiler, holidays interrupted by a burst pipe, the 10,000 things fixed that nobody noticed because nothing failed. You weren't invisible, I said quietly. You were trusted. She reached for my hand and I let distance answer for me. Counseling, she offered. We can rebuild. Down the hall, a pager chirped, 3 quick notes that always make my heart climb a rung. Rebuilding takes a blueprint, I said. What you're offering me is paint. I kept my voice in the register I use for hot wires, calm, precise. You lied about malaria pills. You lied about yesterday's test. You lied about the gala and the guest list and the men with their hands on you. Each item landed like a socket clicking onto a ratchet. You minimized what I felt. You called me small for wanting a roof that doesn't leak and a budget that doesn't bleed. You blamed me for not clapping while you burned the house down. I slid the photo back to my pocket and placed both palms on the table, the way you steady a ladder before you climb. I am not perfect, I said, but I am not crazy either. Olivia's mouth trembled, then steadied. I thought networking would help us, she said, reaching for the nobility clause. You thought rules didn't apply to you if the cause felt big enough, I said. Silence arrived, heavy as a tool bag. So, I asked, how deep does this go? She exhaled, long and shaky, like someone lowering a heavy box they can't carry anymore. There's a hierarchy, she said. People with money make doors open. The hospital expects faces at tables. I wanted a seat. Her eyes slid to the floor. Felix, Dr. Cole, saw me at a conference. He said he could help. He pushed. I let him. There it was. A name, finally, like a light flipping on in a room you've been bumping through. It felt like survival, she said. If you don't play the game, you get left behind. I thought about men I know who never get invited to games. Plumbers, janitors, line cooks, who build entire lives without breaking vows to buy a better seat. The game has rules, I said. One of them is, don't wreck your team to impress the referee. She winced. The air felt thinner. Are you sleeping with him? I asked, because sometimes the only way through is straight. She closed her eyes. Yes, she said. The room didn't move, but I did. I laughed once, dry, a sound with splinters in it. Well, I said, at least the networking paid off. The sarcasm left my mouth before I could leash it. Her hand flashed, fast as a short circuit. The slap cracked across my cheek, hot and bright. I've been burned by steam and shocked by carelessness. This felt like both. For a second the room tilted, paper cups, tissue box, the calm poster about hand hygiene. Don't you talk to me like that, she hissed. I breathed slow, counted to 5 the way you do when a breaker trips and you're deciding whether to reset or rewire. I met her eyes and spoke low. You don't get to hit me and keep the story. She blinked, anger melting into fear. My palm found the back of the chair again, knuckles white, then letting go. I stepped to the door, hand on the handle, cheek burning, heart steadying. There's a particular silence after a slap. It sounds like a door choosing whether to open. I opened the door and didn't step through it yet. Olivia, I said, using her name the way you use a level. One more check before you nail it in. We're done. The words surprised me with how well they fit in my mouth, like they'd been waiting behind my teeth for a while. She reached out, palm up, the same hand that had just met my face. Jack, please, don't throw us away. I shook my head. I'm not throwing. I'm setting down what's already broken. In the hall, a transport tech pushed a gurney by, eyes forward, professional. Life keeps moving, even when yours doesn't. You can tell whatever story you need, I said. I'm going to live a true one. I stepped into the corridor. The air felt colder, cleaner. The door clicked behind me. People passed with their coffees and charts. I touched my cheek and felt the heat ebbing, replaced by a kind of clarity that scared me less than the alternative. By late afternoon, Mercy had done what Mercy always does with fresh drama, metabolized it into whispers. Volunteers traded versions while sorting blankets. Respiratory pushed carts and opinions. Someone said I'd yelled. Someone said she'd fainted. Both were wrong. Truth rarely wins the popularity contest on its first day. In the cafeteria, I ate meatloaf like a man who trusts hot food more than his phone. Mike slid into the seat across from me, eyes scanning the room the way security does. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded once. "You?" he smirked. "Heard 3 different endings already." We let the clatter cover us. "It'll get louder before it dies," he said. "Stand where you can live." I finished my tray, dumped it, and headed back to the basement, my kingdom of humming fans and honest gears. On the way, Tasha passed me, opened her mouth, closed it. People love a story until it looks them in the eye. The automatic door whooshed, and the rumor mill kept turning. He found me between a humming ice machine and a cart full of mops. "Mr. Miller? David Thornton. I represent Olivia Reed, via." Mid-40s, perfect suit, handshake like a door closer, firm, controlled, not meant to slam. We took an empty conference room with a view of the loading dock. He placed a leather folio on the table like a minister setting down a Bible. "I believe we can resolve this amicably," he said, which is lawyer for, "let's keep the mess off the rug." He had the calm of a man who sees fires through glass. "Olivia values privacy," he continued. "She wants what's fair." He talked about assets like he was reading a grocery list, apartment, car, personal items. No need to involve the courts. The fluorescent lights hummed. Down below, a truck beeped in reverse, the universal sound of caution. David folded his hands. "With good faith on both sides, this can be over quickly." I thought about quick fixes. Most leak. "Show me," I said. He smiled, already winning. "Not today." He slid papers across. No-fault divorce, keep the apartment, keep the car, a clean split on the little we owned. Then the anchor, a confidentiality clause big enough to park a bus under. No public discussion, no narrative, no words that might ding a halo. "Standard," he said, smoothing the page. "People my age know standard means protects the person who can afford the lawyer." I read slow, lips moving the way my dad did with contracts he didn't trust. "So I get stuff," I said, "and she gets silence." David's smile worked hard not to show teeth. "You both get peace." Outside, rain started, a soft drumming that makes you think clearer. I tapped the clause with a knuckle. "What happens if I don't sign?" His eyes didn't blink. "Then we litigate, messy, expensive, unpleasant for all." I pictured the cherry dress, the guest list, the doctor's voice. He saw me weighing it and leaned in. "Be smart, Mr. Miller." I closed the folder and let the rain answer for me. I walked him back to the elevator. "Tell Olivia I understand the offer," I said. He pressed the button, nodding like a man who closes on Tuesdays. "She appreciates your discretion." The doors slid shut and I watched my reflection warp in the steel. That's when the words arranged themselves plain enough for an old mechanic. This wasn't a peace treaty. It was a muzzle. The price of quiet was truth. Back in the basement, the laundry machines beat their steady rhythm, like work ethic in a world that prefers shortcuts. I set the folio on my bench, next to a flange gasket and a roll of blue tape, and stared at the clause again. I could take the easy road, call it grace, and let a story I didn't write define me. Or I could hold my own line and accept the noise that comes with living out loud. The elevator dinged behind me. Mike stepped out, reading my face like a chart. "How bad?" he asked. "Depends," I said, "on how quiet I plan to be." That night at the motel, I spread the papers on the table like a map of a country I wasn't sure I wanted to visit. Money matters when you're my age. Retirement isn't a rumor anymore. A clean split saves dollars and ulcers. But I kept seeing the faces at Mercy who know me as the man who shows up, fixes it, and tells the truth. If I signed, I'd be fine on paper and poor in the mirror. I called my brother, the one who never wastes words. He listened, let the quiet do some work, then said, "You can live with people thinking you're bitter. You can't live with yourself thinking you're a liar." I thanked him and hung up, because older brothers end calls before feelings leak. I turned the TV off, let the motel's thin walls remind me other people were living too, loudly, badly, honestly. My phone buzzed. Mike. "Swing by," his text read. "Something you should see." I grabbed my jacket. The rain had decided to mean it. Mike locked the security office door and slid a manila folder across like a cop who hates this part. "Pulled a few strings," he said. Inside, newsprint clippings, social photos, and 3 glossy shots like punches. Olivia, in the dark cherry dress, dancing cheek-close with Dr. Ethan Cole, orthopedic surgeon, smile polished enough to light a hallway. Another photo. Their hands, too familiar for strangers, the caption reading like a brag. The third, them leaving a hotel with the kind of confidence people wear when consequences seem hobby-sized. These were public, Mike said, buried in lifestyle pages and hospital newsletters. People saw. They just didn't look. I ran a thumb along the edge of a photo until it bit. My name wasn't on any caption. "You sure it's him?" I asked. Mike tapped a press release with Cole's headshot. Same jaw, same eyes that said, "Doors open for me." "There's more," Mike added, pulling another file. "Timeline." He set it down like a fuse. "Breathe first," he said. I did, and then I didn't. The timeline read like instructions for breaking a life. Met at a conference 6 months back, spotted together at 2 fundraisers, overnight after the gala, weekend trips folded into continuing education. Dates I remembered for other reasons. My mother's birthday, a busted chiller at Mercy, the night our neighbor's kid needed stitches. While I was thawing pipes and paying bills, they were networking in rooms with better carpet. I felt something old and dangerous climb my spine, rage that makes men my age drive too fast or say things knives would regret. Mike watched the color drain and then return. "You're not crazy," he said softly. "That helps. Now don't get stupid." I set the timeline down and let the numbers stop moving. The pictures didn't blur anymore. They stood still and told the truth I didn't want but needed. "Okay," I said, voice flat as a workbench. "Now I know how long the leak's been running." Mike nodded. "And we're not done." He opened one more file. A different name stared back. "Dr. Sarah Cole," Mike said. "Cardiologist. Wife." He let the last word sit there, a weight with edges. A printout showed her bio, smart eyes, steady smile, the face of someone patients remember later as kindness. A family photo, 2 kids, a dog with a bandana, the life advertisers sell during football games. My anger shifted shape, picked up a companion called pity. I know what it is to build something slow, honest, and then watch it find a crack you didn't pour. "She know?" I asked. Mike shrugged. "If she doesn't, she will. Women like her don't stay blind long." I imagined a different consultation room, a different chair, her hands wrapped around a paper cup that didn't warm anything. There's a special cruelty to cheating with someone who has a spouse. You're not just breaking one roof. You're pulling shingles off 2. I slid Sarah's picture under Ethan's like a roof line meeting a storm. "So this isn't just my house," I said. "No," Mike answered. "It's the neighborhood." Once you say it out loud, she wrecked 2 families. The math changes. It's not about my pride or even our vows. It's about a radius of damage. Parent-teacher nights explained with half-truths, holiday tables with a chair that gets quieter, kids learning the choreography of backpacks between 2 houses. People 35 and up understand collateral, the ripples money can't smooth. I looked at the photos and felt my anger clarify, the way steel does when you draw it across a stone. This wasn't a bar mistake or a one-time stumble. This was a plan with dress codes and captions. "So what's fair now?" I asked the room. Silence didn't argue. I thought about David's offer, paper peace for the price of pretending. I thought about Sarah, who didn't sign up to be brave this month. "If I shut up," I said, "I help them keep doing this to other people." Mike didn't nod or preach. He just waited. Men like him respect a decision more if you make it yourself. I gathered the photos, the timeline, the printouts, and felt heat where paper met skin. Evidence changes posture. You stand straighter because now the truth has weight you can carry. In the movies, this is where a man storms into a lobby and makes a speech. In real life, lobbies have security and speeches get you escorted outside. I zipped the folder, slid it into my duffel and checked the clock. My shift started in 20 minutes. The hospital didn't care that my life had a plot twist. A surgical compressor still needed parts. "What are you going to do?" Mike asked. I thought about the confidentiality clause, about my brother's voice, about Sarah's kids who didn't know they were in a story yet. "First," I said, "I'm going to finish my work orders." Mike grinned, small, proud. "And second?" I looked at the folder, felt the heat turn into something with a handle. "I'm going to make sure this doesn't disappear." The beeper on Mike's belt chirped. Time to move. Driving back to the motel, wipers beating time, I let the word revenge sit in the passenger seat and stare me down. I don't like that word. It's loud, sloppy, the kind of thing that looks good in a song and ruins a life in practice. What I wanted felt quieter. Accountability. Where I'm from, if you break something, you own it. You apologize, you pay, you fix what's fixable, and you live with what isn't. Olivia wanted silence. Ethan wanted the next room with better lighting. The hospitals wanted to avoid headlines unless they sponsored them. I parked under the fizzing streetlight and killed the engine. In the rear view, I saw a man who still had a choice. I took the folder upstairs, set it on the table, and made coffee strong enough to argue. Then I opened my laptop and created a new email. Simple name, no flair. I typed 4 subject lines to 4 places that would have to listen. My finger hovered over save draft. Not send, not yet. Friday after shift, I parked across from the employee entrance with a thermos and a dashboard that's heard every prayer a man can mumble. At 6:45, Ethan Cole's BMW slid into a visitor spot like it owned the line. He checked his reflection in the window. Men who get away with things always do. At 7:15, Olivia came out in jeans and the sweater I bought her 2 Christmases ago. They met halfway, the kind of hug that says, "We practice this." I kept my phone steady. Public sidewalk, public lot, no shouting, no scenes. They drove to a French place we'd never afforded and sat near the window, hands touching like teenagers with money. I filmed in short bursts, time-stamped, face clear, the way Mike taught me to document equipment failures. They left laughing, drove to his building, disappeared into a garage where cameras were not my friend. I sat a while, breathing, then exhaled one word that tasted like resolve. Enough. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. On my screen, "This is Sarah Cole. We need to talk." I stared like the phone had grown teeth. I called. She answered on the first ring, calm, clipped, a cardiologist's pulse in her voice. "Mr. Miller," she said, "I believe your wife and my husband are involved." She didn't spend time on polite. "I've suspected for months. My PI confirmed it tonight." I looked at the restaurant across the street, remembered the way Olivia's hand settled on Ethan's sleeve. "I have video," I said, surprised by how steady I sounded. Sarah offered a diner off the highway, neutral ground, neon honest enough to testify. I drove with both hands on the wheel, the way you do when your life is about to take a corner. Inside, she looked exactly like her hospital bio, tired, smart, no nonsense. She slid a legal pad between us. "Let's keep this clean," she said. "Nothing illegal, only facts." She lifted a thumb drive from her purse, small as a fuse, and I brought receipts. We sat in a booth that remembered every secret it ever held. Sarah's eyes were the kind that had looked inside too many chests and still believed in repair. 3 months of surveillance, she said, tapping the pad. Hotels, restaurants, conferences. I hired a licensed investigator. Chain of custody is intact. She wasn't bragging. She was building a case. She pulled photos. Olivia in the dark cherry dress, arm around Ethan, them leaving a hotel 2 towns over, a credit card statement with charges that didn't belong to family life. "He used our joint account," she said, voice steady. "And once, God help me, his hospital card." I felt heat rise, the kind that makes men do dumb things. Sarah saw it and shook her head. "No stunts," she said gently. "We do this right, or not at all." She flipped to a page titled Distribution Plan. "You and I aren't the story," she added. "Their choices are." She placed the thumb drive on the table. "If we push, it's because they pulled." Back at the motel, I plugged the USB into my laptop like a man disarming a trap. It bloomed open. Folders labeled by date, subfolders by location, a PI who understood that tidy is persuasive. Photos, videos, screenshots, text backups that read like a roadmap of bad decisions. There was the gala and better resolution than my nightmares. The hotel lobby flower arrangement I'd noticed once on TV. The kind of smiles people use when they think doors won't tattle. A spreadsheet tracked transactions, dinners, jewelry, parking garages. The facts didn't shout. They stacked. I copied the essentials to 2 fresh drives, one for me, one for Mike, and tucked the originals back where they'd be safe. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and let the room hum. We weren't dealing in rumors anymore. We had evidence that could stand on its own 2 feet in bright light. My phone buzzed. Sarah again. "Tomorrow," her text read. "We decide where this goes." I typed back one word. Everywhere. Saturday morning, coffee strong enough to lift lumber, Sarah and I met again, this time with Mike at the diner. We sketched a 4-lane plan on napkins. 1. Hospital administration at Mercy and St. Andrew Presbyterian. 2. The State Medical Board and the Nursing Board, formal complaints with exhibits. 3. The Pacific Relief Organization, donor misuse and conduct concerns. 4. A reputable local paper known for doing its homework. "All at once," Mike said. "If it's everywhere, nobody can bury it." Sarah nodded. No anonymous rage, professionally written summaries, timestamps, attachments. We are not bitter exes, we are witnesses. We set up clean email accounts, drafted cover letters in plain English, and attached only what mattered. Dates, images, transactions, policies cited. We agreed on one rule: no social media, no leaks until official channels had to respond. Before we left, Sarah looked at both of us. "Once we send," she said, "we don't get to choose the size of the wave." I slid the final draft across the table. "Then let's pick the tide." We met in Mike's cramped office. Bad coffee, good locks. Sarah laid out the packets like a nurse prepping trays. Mercy admin, St. Andrew Presbyterian admin, the State Medical Board and Nursing Board, Pacific Relief, and one local paper that doesn't scare easy. We checked every file twice. Timestamps, captions, policy sites. No heat, just fact. Mike created burner accounts with boring names. I drafted subject lines a manager would open. Documentation of unprofessional conduct, time-stamped attachments enclosed. Sarah's thumb hovered over her trackpad. "Once this goes, it goes," she said. Older folks know that feeling, like dropping a certified letter you can't fish back. I nodded. Let the truth do its job. We counted down like techs powering up a system after a repair. 3, 2, 1, send. The room fell quiet except for the AC that never learned subtlety. Then the inboxes started to bloom. Auto replies, intake ticket numbers, received, under review. I felt my pulse slow for the first time in weeks. We didn't win yet, but we'd started the clock. Monday moved fast. At 10:12, Mercy's HR emailed Olivia, immediate administrative leave pending inquiry. At 11:40, St. Andrew Presbyterian's compliance office acknowledged receipt of our packet on Dr. Ethan Cole. By lunch, the Mercy rumor mill had swapped out last week's drama for this one. You can hear institutional panic, the clipped footsteps, the closed-door meetings, the way managers use first and last names like they're reading charges. Olivia found me in a stairwell, eyes wide, voice low. "You did this." I kept my hands in my pockets. "No," I said. "You did this. I documented it." She flinched like truth had weight. Mike texted me a photo of a bulletin. Staff reminded of relationships and professional conduct policy. Quarterbacks always call a timeout after the other team scores. Mid-afternoon, a board investigator requested a formal statement from me, not gossip, documents. I printed what mattered and left out what didn't. As I fed paper into the scanner, I realized something simple and hard. Consequences were finally louder than excuses. Next stop would not be private. Wednesday's paper hit the stands with a photo I knew too well. The dark cherry dress in a ballroom, a caption that named names. The article didn't snarl. It reported excerpts from policies, quotes from officials, a timeline that matched our files. By noon, St. Andrew announced Dr. Cole was placed on leave pending a full review of expense reports and conduct. By Friday, he was terminated. Mercy played slower, like big ships do, but the result rhymed. Olivia's suspension extended, then separation from employment tucked into careful HR language. Pacific Relief issued a statement about revisiting volunteer protocols. The board sent acknowledgments with case numbers, the kind of numbers grown-ups learn to respect. Sarah texted me a photo of her kitchen table, school projects spread out, a dog asleep, the paper folded open. "We're okay," she wrote. I believed her. At the motel, I set the newspaper beside my tool bag and let the silence settle. This wasn't revenge. It was daylight. And daylight did what it always does. It showed the mess. By the end of the week, it was official. Ethan, fired. Expense reports under review, badge turned in, statement full of values and standards. Olivia, separated from employment, the careful HR phrase that means your login won't work on Monday. Word around Mercy said she'd struggle to get hired anywhere local. Boards don't forget case numbers. I read the emails twice, then set my phone face down and just breathed. Relief came first, quiet, like painkillers finally catching up. Then the aftertaste, bitterness, the kind you notice when the room goes still. I thought about cardboard boxes under office arms, about the way people stare at the floor in elevators on someone's last day. I thought about the years we built, and how quick a match eats a house. Men my age keep moving, pay the bill, change the oil, show up. I rinsed my coffee mug, packed my tools, and locked the motel door behind me. This part was done. What wasn't? Who I'd be after it. I used to think my job was fixing what breaks. Pipes, doors, the quiet things that fail without making a scene. Turns out, I had to fix something louder. My story. I went from the husband who believed, to the man blindsided, to the one who turned on the lights and named what happened. I didn't get back what I lost. I got back something different. Myself. They thought I'd keep my head down, keep the peace, keep their secret. They thought I'd stay the victim. But I walked away a survivor. If you're my age, you know life isn't all fresh starts. It's repairs that hold, and a few you choose not to make. I won't pretend this didn't cost me. It did. But daylight is cheaper than darkness in the long run. Tomorrow I'll lace my boots, punch in, and keep things running for the people who count on quiet heroes. Now the part I can't answer for you. When trust cracks, do you forgive or do you fight back? Pick your road and live it true.